The snow has melted, so I am outside. But I wanted to talk to you all today about something that I think is really important. It's like, what is your heart calling to you, right? And I talked a little bit about this in previous videos. The first video I talked about was like the role that you play, and is it who you really are? And then yesterday I talked about existential frustration and why, when the role you're not playing frustrates you. It did for me. It's create, and as if anybody that has listened to my channel for any length of time, they know I talk a lot about my tsunami, and that was the result of the roles I was playing were very frustrating to me. So today I want to get into this with you. If you are on a path and you're seeking and you want to know yourself better, you want to have a more fulfilled life, you want to be more joyous, you want to do things that when you start doing them, time just slips away and you're in this Zen nirvana place, right? And that's how you fill your days. Now, you're not going to do that every day. It's not possible. But we can get to a place where it's more often than not. And I think today it's more not than often. And I'm going to share with you 3 ways through a story. It's a beautiful story. But 3 ways, the way roles and how your heart calls you and how divine timing all impacts your life. And really how these things, when you start becoming aware of them, can lead to a path of fulfillment, the reason for your being. I think one of the most important reasons why we're here is to know ourselves. And I know Carl Jung has said that. The purpose of our being is to know yourself. And that's not his words, those I'm paraphrasing. And a lot of people have said that. It's to know that inner wisdom that's within you. And I like to see that and call that inner wisdom my divine spark within. It's the all-knowingness. If you're breathing, you have that spark within you. It's the life force. Everything on the planet pretty much is run by the life force. So why wouldn't you have it? So we do have that, and it's just a perception. God is not outside of you. Just not. That's that external way we've been conditioned. But I want to stay on track because I want to pull myself back in. But again, I want to just talk to you today about the roles we play, how that external world impacts them, how when we start shifting and start doing stuff that really fulfills us is when we find our purpose. But it's really interesting how divine timing is so much a part of all of this. So, my name is Nina Zapala. If you don't know me, if you're the first time on my channel, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And for those returning, thank you. I love you all. And I do, comment. I respond to comments. So please do comment, please share. And if you are on this path and you're like wondering, like, why am I here? Like, what does fulfill me? I work with people through spiritual personality typing. I'm not going to go into that real deeply here, but it is a roadmap to the real you because I use the foundational aspects of personality typing, right? But then I shift them into a more spiritual, tactical strategy that you can use. It's more fulfilling because I believe we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So, enough said. If you want to book a clarity call, please go to my website or use the description box here, and there's a link. So anyway, let's get to this story. It's a beautiful story. It's about Alice Mosley. Alice Mosley was born in Birmingham, Alabama, pre-World War II. So this is a story that goes back a bit. But she, like many women, many people, grew up in Alabama, went to college, and became a teacher. So that was the path for a lot of women in that day and age: teacher, secretary, nurse, that kind of thing. And I think it still is today. And not a bad thing, it's not a good thing. It's just the role that society said, oh, this would be a good fit for women because they're nurturers. And it is a good fit. So there's no judgment here. It's just what she chose. She chose to be an 8th grade teacher. So she got married, and her husband, unfortunately, went into World War II. He did come back, and they lived now in Memphis, Tennessee. So for 30 years, she was a teacher in 8th grade. Oh my God, please shoot me in the head, right? That would not be for me. But, there's so many people that do such a good job in that. And I think, I kind of think it might be fun. It might be fun to challenge. It'd be fun to be with the kids. The parents would be a whole other thing for me because the kids are more open-minded. But, so she taught for 30 years. And then all of a sudden, her mother got sick. And so I was like, uh-oh. So she had to quit teaching. She went to care for her mother. But she still had to make money. They were recovering from the war. I mean, come on. It wasn't a time where, we had today where everything's just here. It was a totally different time. And so she had to work. So and I wish I could have interviewed her because I think she must have had some kind of a breakthrough because as she was caring for her mother, who had Alzheimer's, she started painting. Painting. She painted 40 paintings, bundled them all up, packaged them all up, took them into Memphis to an art show, an art market. And all 40 paintings sold. And they sold to a gentleman that had a hotel. And he used them in all his hotels. So she left that morning thinking, oh, I'm just going to do this. She returned home knowing that she was a painter. She had a gift. She was a painter. And they started calling her the idyllic folk artist. And idyllic folk artist is really somebody that takes something that's very realistic and as humor and puts humor to it. So she must have had that as she taught, But when you're in the confines of a school, you really can't be your true self because you're in an institutionalized teaching system. So you have to follow all their rules and regulations. So there's not a lot of wiggle room. I think there's probably more today, but back then there was not. There's not a lot of wiggle room to be yourself. And so I think what happened with her is she found herself through her folk art paintings. And you could see the humor in her. You could see the life in her. And as her husband passed away, sadly, but she had her paintings. She had what fulfilled her. So she thought, do I want to be in Memphis anymore? I have no family here. I'm going to move. So she moved, and I think her son had since, I don't know if her son was still in the area or not. I'm not clear on that. But so she moved to a beautiful place called Bay St. Louis in Mississippi. And from her 80s all the way until she died at 92, she kept on painting. And she is very well known. She became a renowned artist. Like, her paintings fetch anywhere from, they're thousands into the 100,000s. They're collector's paintings. And her art it's beautiful. And she said, from 80, right now in my 80s, this is the happiest time of my life. That makes me so happy. First of all, it makes me happy on a lot of different ways because she was in fulfillment. She was finally doing what she loved. She was living where she loved. She was with people that she loved. She found the role that suited her in fulfillment of her soul's desires. Right? And so our soul, it desires to create. We are co-creating with all there is. There's no limit to that. The soul desires servitude. That's what it desires. It desires personal growth. Your soul always wants to evolve. And however way it wants to do that. For her, it was an artist. For you, it could be like the best grandma ever, or the best grandpa ever, or the best mother ever, you know, or the best, I don't care what it is, it doesn't matter, the best activist ever. Maybe you have the best garden on the street and everybody comes by your house and oohs and ahs. You bring people fulfillment, and you're fulfilled by doing what you love, being in the garden, creating beautiful gardenscapes. It doesn't matter what it is. But see, with Miss Alice's story, that was her colloquial name, she knows Miss Alice, so many things had to happen, right? So the divine is always working with you in the background. So that's why that yesterday's video where I said, where I was talking about existential frustration, is you get frustrated because you're not being with yourself. You're in the hustle in this external world, right? Miss Alice was almost forced to get into solitude to care for her mother. That was her task. So she took herself out of a school situation, which it's busy. Come on, let's face it. You're basically managing 30 kids. You're doing the homework. You're putting up with all the blah, 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 blah in the system, following the rules, whatever. But she had time to be with her mother, and she had time to think and get quiet. And I talked about that yesterday too, about how you have to understand what the heart wants. It's calling to you, but are you listening to it? Right? The divine, your divine spark within. Okay, so just, you can call it your higher conscious. You call it the Holy Spirit. I don't care what you call it. It's that light that's within you that's always speaking to you. It's always whispering to you. It's okay to step into the unknown. Just try it. Hey, and if you don't like it, don't do it. Try something else. I know it's hard. I've done it myself. Trust me. I went through a 7-year life tsunami and my whole life has changed. So I know the feeling of not knowing where you're going, not knowing who you are, not trusting yourself. But these things start reversing themselves once you start listening to yourself. You trust yourself more, because when you listen to yourself, things usually go more on track than when you're not listening to yourself. I'm not saying your life's going to be perfect, because it's not. Trust me. It's because, your soul always going to want to challenge you. So you're always going to run into some things that are going to challenge you to evolve to the next step, right? But getting back to Alice too, she didn't, like so many, because I work with people, and I call it audacious aging, but I work with people that get to be a time in her life. So she was like, I think she was in her late 70s when she moved to Bay St. Louis. Her husband had died. And she wasn't like, oh my God, what am I do? She was fulfilled in her painting. She still loved her husband. They still did things together, I'm sure. I don't know. I'd have to interview, but it seems like that. It sounds like that from me speaking to the curator of her museum now, the Mosley Museum that's in Bay St. Louis. So I think she was just happy. She was so fulfilled. And when you're fulfilled, and it just gushes out. You're not drinking from an empty cup, as they say. So everything around you is in the feelings, is in your energy frequency of that fulfillment. So she wasn't like, I'm all now by myself. She's like, no, I'm going to go paint some more. I'm going to go to a new location and get inspiration from a new location. And that's exactly what she did. And I'm going to show you, because of course I went to the museum, and of course I had to get a print. I wish I could afford an original, but I didn't have $10,000 in my checking account at the time. But look at this. This is one of her original paintings, and I love what it says. It's called The Blue House. The house is blue, but the old lady ain't. Isn't that's just gorgeous. I'm going to leave you with that. I hope this helped. On the blog this week, it's about what's your heart want, and it's calling to you. And there's a journal prompt in there for you too. And I go into this story, and I give you some tips and some inspiration to start opening yourself up to what you really want. Thank you all for being here. Totally appreciate it. Like, subscribe, share, and if you need a clarity call, schedule one. All for now. Enjoy.